about it, or is it because nowadays it's become pervasive? Social media is intrusive, getting into things that is not your problem. Is that why we're talking about the issue of regulation?
Yes, I think this is a very important conversation that it's very necessary. And aside from that, it's also an ongoing debate, like you mentioned earlier on. So I do not really know when exactly we will come to a conclusion. And that's a major challenge, because each time we have a regulation, social media and tech giants have a way of taking the tech space a bit further. I'm not even sure that any of our laws and regulation has considered AI. But don't let's even go there. Let's even go there. Let's go there yet. But to answer your question, yes, why are we talking about it right now? Our elections last year was major. It's like our own Olympic, if I can say it that way, or maybe our own World Cup, where everyone has an idea, on how who should be elected, who should not be elected. But I think that once you come into the public space, you become
vulnerable.
Vulnerable, that's the word, thank you. And it's a challenge, because before now, no one was regulating beer park conversations. And the conversations we have now on social media are similar to the ones we have when guys are chilling and having beer or taking a drink, or when you go to the newsstand and people are reviewing newspaper and people are sharing different ideas. All of those conversations are not really regulated. But now that you are coming on social media, and there's a challenge of scale, because you can put out something and in less than 20 minutes, you have millions. You can't even control who is going to see it or view it. And unfortunately, you cannot also control how they interpret it. Because people interpret based on their level of knowledge, level of exposure, and level of understanding. I'm sure you must have had experience where you share a tweet and someone takes it absolutely from nowhere. And you're like, God, when did I say this? The ability for people to comprehend is becoming very, very difficult.
I took the question out of my mouth. Well, go on.
Comprehension is a major challenge right now. You make a post and you're like, where did you find this inference that is leading to this particular conclusion? And if you're a celebrity or in the political class, chances are that you would want to respond. And once you do that, you take the conversation to the arena of the person who is ready to bash you, and who is most times shameless, because they don't have
anything to lose.
Anything to lose. So that's a challenge. But the beautiful thing is that we now have to have this kind of conversations more often. We have to engage people more. We have to let people know that it's not okay for you to just have a conversation and think that you can go scot-free. There are laws. I'm so happy when you mentioned about the Toyin matter and the steps she took. I think Eniola Badmus was in a similar case not too long ago. And I like what she did.
Okay, Larry. Okay, but if there are laws in place, yet we do not have sanity on our social media space, how do we begin to raise digitally responsible citizens? Because social media is a leveler for everybody. You can talk to Mr. President anyhow on social media. You can talk to your governor anyhow on social media. But as a society now, how do we begin to raise digitally responsible citizens in such a way that you think twice before putting a content on the social media?
Yes, so maybe the way I started answering the question, people at home might think that I'm against social media. I should give that caveat that I'm not against it, so that I don't get out and get bashed. But the truth also is that social media is like the gun in the hand of a policeman, and also the gun in the hand of an armed robber. It's a tool, and it depends on how well people are ready to use them. Social media has ensured that we have more millionaires and billionaires. Many of the tech guys who work with Facebook and Twitter, many of them are doing well. I was opportunity to have friends who were working with Twitter when they were in Ghana, But the truth is that we need to have this kind of conversation more, and people need to know what is obtainable. That we even need to give more attention to the laws, because the law in itself can be a bit ambiguous. For the average person, do they even know about the existence of such laws? Many people think that because it's social media, I can say anything and get away with it. That is not the truth. You can be arrested. You can go to jail. You can be asked to pay fine. In fact, you can pay fine and still go to jail. That's what the law says. Even before the Cybercrime Acts of 2015, the one by NICTA that was signed into law on the 14th of June 2023, Section 373 of the Criminal Code speaks to things to defamation. I think 371 also the Penal Code also speak to these things. So we have existing laws, but people need to now come to that consciousness. The media also need to do a lot of sensitization. People just need to know. And then I think that in the particular case of Eniola Badmus, rather, I like what she did, in the sense that most times we think it's okay to only sensationalize about someone defaming your character. We all go to the Supreme Court of social media to cry, to shout, but you can actually make use of the law. And I think in such cases,
which was what Tony did.
Exactly. And then the police who are supposed to also enforce did everything that was right. In the case of Toyin Abraham, I think the police got themselves in the middle of the whole drama where they had to arrest someone's mom, someone's sister, and then. But I think that with a lot of conversation, explainers, in terms of letting people know, the awareness has to go up. Let people know about the laws.
We've also forgot that the former governor of Lagos State, Fashola, did the same thing too. And he had to arrest. And of course, we have existing laws, in case people don't know. Apart from the one from NICTA, we have the cybercrime law and data protection regulation and media laws. But I think we should quickly address the issue of comprehension. I realize that it's been a major challenge, and that's why you have so many misinterpretations. Even no matter the laudable project of government, somebody will just come and say, is that all they can do? And you're wondering, like, you've not even interrogated the conversation or even the laws as to what is entailed in this particular provision or this new initiative of government. How do we address the issue of comprehension? Because I knew that you should have sorted that out before the end of primary school. It happens between primary 2 and primary 3. You should have started comprehension. By primary 6, you should be able to read something and understand what exactly. But we don't have just go on any of the social media platform now. You'll be shocked as to how people relate with things, and that's where the problem is.
So I don't know if we are going to review curriculum in school. I don't know, but I think that the National Orientation Agency might be able to help in ensuring that they take the conversation ahead of the populace. So if you're ahead of them, don't expect that everybody will understand. I think that's the safest thing to do now. If you're in government and if you're in the area whereby you are in charge of policy making, don't expect that people will understand. Look at the Samoa matter. Where did the gay matter get into that discussion? And the government had to be playing catch up. No, that
should have been done
earlier. So we should not expect that people will comprehend. But unfortunately, it might also be that our education system needs to maybe experience some form of review and maybe overview. Let's even take the issue of comprehension a bit, because I think when you take your textbook, verbal reasoning, and then reader, we call it then, and then you answer questions.
Yes.
Some of those things are so basic that right now, with the advent of social media, we are realizing that maybe those who did not go through them well, or because the anxiety of everybody wants to share their opinion, they are not able to engage critical thinking before making comments. And that's a challenge. I even think that maybe if we include critical thinking in our school's curriculum, maybe it will help as one approach to fixing any problem. Because as a fact checker, I also look at it that the challenge of disinformation and misinformation is like a wildfire. And because people are unable to think critically, look at news content and like, okay, why is this person sharing this? Could it be that there's an ulterior motive that this person is, trying to achieve? And because of the absence of critical thinking and cooperation, like you mentioned, and the need to say something. And the truth is that you don't have to say something until you have perfect understanding. That's the truth. But social media is that place whereby you think that you can say anything, and because you think you can get away with it, people say all sorts of things. And I don't think that is helping our national conversation. Because the challenge is, look at the elections, for instance, 2023. There were issues that we should be deliberating upon, but we chose to deliberate on ethnic matters and using this information. And right now, we are at the point where we are not discussing those things. because those are the things that matter, things around climate change, things about economic issues, things about education. So if we neglect the right conversations because of our inability to think properly, as a people, we are going to suffer for it.
Okay. I quite agree that people feel that the social media space is a free-for-all where nobody can gag you. You are free to express your feelings, your emotions. But then, as a country, what are the dangers or the implications of misusing the social media space?
The implications are numerous, and I start from economic point of view. We really need to know that people lose money on social media. People lose all their livelihood. People lose their savings. At every point in time, there's always a fake news about how do they say it now? Yeah,
Auction.
Oh, God bless you, sir. And it's a lie. They keep coming to say that, no, we are not involved in this, and people release their data, their credit, their debit card or whatever card, and they lose all their money. That's an economic challenge. If you also look in the aspect of health, which I even think is a more critical matter, right now, there are all forms of drugs, herbal concussion on Facebook, people
Instagram.
on Instagram, on TikTok. People go as far as take this, take that, take this. It will, and when you see, you realize that it will cure cancer, it will cure kidney stone. I'm like, how?
It works for everything.
You have the cream, you have the...
All sorts. And I wish that we had the data to show how these adverts are affecting people's health. And once it affects their health, eventually it's going to affect their livelihood, because when you damage your health because of misinformation, at the end of the day, you find yourself in the hospital, or we even lose a lot of manpower. So some of the other dangers is that we are not able to focus on what we should talk about.
Yeah.
And sometimes...
It's a distraction.
God bless you. So that's what people, that's what sometimes those who really want us to look away from the real things do. So let's give them this ethnic matter. Then they are on it for 1 week. Once it's going down again, they change the disc. And then we're not talking about issues that are going to affect us and affect us children 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So those are the dangers, and they are numerous. And the earlier we begin to sit together, get the tech guys on the table. Those guys need to be on the table.
How about the psychological dangers as well?
Wow, you cannot even quantify that. A lot of people are going through mental health challenges because of the ephemeral things like number of likes and number of comments.
Yes.
Nobody's liking my page, and that's why you will see
And follows.
Yes, and that's why you realize that sometimes the tech guys have been, Facebook and the likes, they've been thinking that should we take away number of likes? Should we take away so that people don't even fall into that depression for something as simple as that? That on the side, people are not able to, before social media, you're not able to compare your colleagues, those who you left school together. You just know that Segun is in one place maybe in Canada or wherever. But right now, Segun gets a new belt, and then you're able to say, wow, so Segun can afford this. We have seen many pictures of people in first class where they just go to what they call it now. There's a tag, there's a media word for it, I can't remember now. Where you just go on a plane, take a picture. I learned that there's a place on the island where you can actually do that. Go on a plane, take a picture, get down. Fake live, yes, that's it. And those who are not able to think that not everything that is on social media that is real, begin to say, oh man, I've not done enough for myself. They begin to beat themselves, and then they begin to fall into deep depression.
So many challenges. One part I would like us to talk about is the issue of third party and data. Perhaps we'll get into, if we have time, to look at even AI, artificial intelligence. Hardly can you click on any platform. You sign up to this, click on this, and what that means, you literally surrendered every aspect of your conversation online to the dictates of this thing. And sometimes you think that is even, that's where the AI comes in. You're thinking about something, the next thing, perhaps cars. The next thing on your social media platform is you're seeing all types of cars on your listing. And some people don't know that as soon as you sign in your third party, data are being mined on a daily basis to be sold even. I remember we had one NIMC the other day.
Yes.
How do we deal with this? These are your private issues or private data that shouldn't be out there, but you find it and it's being sold to people you don't know. In other climes, in Europe, in America, constantly all these Facebook, Instagram have been called to regulate the activity as far as the third-party issues are concerned. But in Nigeria, I think we were silent. Is it because we're not there yet, or we don't understand the import of third-party signing and all these data mining activities?
So I think that some have said that maybe because we have more pressing issues that affect day-to-day life, and then we think that data privacy matter, we can come back to it. But that's not how to view governance. It's always better when you take on issues head-on at the right time, before it becomes very problematic. The issue of data is key, and it's something that we need to look from, we need to counter from an holistic angle. I was saying the other time that the tech guys need to come on the table. Many of the conversations we have with the tech guys are not even with people who are really into tech. And I think maybe I shouldn't even go to the issue. The last issue of the president's, former president's Twitter was taken down, and there was conversation with Twitter. And I was really asking who were those who actually sat with Twitter to ask them these questions, so that they can begin to see that Africans or Nigerians are also taking this matter seriously. I think that if we handle this matter as individual countries, we might not be able to get attention of the tech guys, because they are quite big, and really it seems like they don't really care about this side of the globe. And some of the excuses that they give is that, for instance, they say that, okay, in Nigeria, for instance, you have over 525 native languages. How do they even curate content for you guys? Unlike where in Europe, it's just either English or Spanish or other languages. But they are the ones who take our data. And then you were talking about you checking for a particular item, and all through that day you go on Facebook, you begin to see all of those things. Sometimes you just even have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's say talk about a particular product right now, and then your phones are on the table. These phones have ability for social listening. They can listen. That's why you're able to call on Siri, and then they just respond to you.
If you say that, my phone is going to pick that up.
Exactly. So we need to let people know that when you give data on social media, it can be used for multiple things. A good example is during the elections. You just see a text message on your phone, vote for ABC. I don't even know this person. Who shared my
Data.
my SMS with this political candidate? So it could be anybody. So you go for an event, for instance, you sign your name, your email address, your phone number, your office address. That is data. So we need to come to that consciousness that whenever I'm giving my data, do I trust you enough to protect this thing I'm giving to you? On the other hand, to what extent are you going to use it? So if you're letting me know that dropping my data is just for your own record and for the security of each person who comes to this particular premises, that's fine. We should have that agreement. And you have a responsibility to not use it beyond that point. Should you want to use it beyond that point, I should be in the know. You should reach out to me. So we need to demand more from everyone: governments, social media companies, private organizations. So for instance, you call a taxi on your app, and then it has your house address or your location, and it could tell, okay, this could either be this person's office or their resident. It has your phone number. That system collates that, and it can be used for a lot of things.
Larry, because of our time, regulation, which is essentially what we are discussing here today. How do we begin to regulate the social media in such a way that we would not make our children vulnerable? Because a lot of times I've seen that people also take advantage of children or minors on social media.
Yes, I think the conventional media platforms have this better understanding. For instance, you're doing a story that concerns a minor, your face has to be covered. But unfortunately, the bloggers and the influencers do not have this basic understanding. But in terms of regulation, what I think we should do is that it's an ongoing conversation that we need to have, and then we have to come to a conclusion. And then it's not a conclusion that's, so to say, an end in itself. As tech begin to advance and there are new innovations, we need to keep reviewing them. Because the major question is a very
But
difficult.
we seem to be slipping.
No, we have not even started. We have not even started because I was going to say before that maybe if the African Union, for instance, or ECOWAS, for instance, is able to say that as a continent, this is our template in dealing with the tech
social-
giants like Facebook, Twitter, because we cannot.
Same way EU is doing. In fact, they just do a
Yes,
sanction
yes.
just like yesterday. Or
Because we cannot depend on the morality of these guys to protect us and to do proper regulation because they are business people. They are about the figures, the numbers, the likes, the engagements. And those are the things they use in, working on their algorithms. And sometimes there are things that children should not even see on Facebook. But some children are able to bypass that login period when they say, are you under 18? The KYC system isn't even strong enough to know that this person is not 18 plus. And there's some content that they should not find even though they can be on Facebook. Until we hold them responsible and say, be on this table. Media, be on the table. Law enforcement, be on the table. Legal, those who are in charge of the legal framework. And then we begin to tell them things that we really want. Until then, I'm afraid we may not have a conclusion that we might be able to deal with as a society.
Okay, I think the conversation, if we talk about law in this country, is going to come from the politicians, perhaps our regulators, members of the National Assembly. However, how do we insulate them from being emotional in enacting laws that will regulate the media? Because you can hear sometimes when you hear that debate on the floor, when they talk about the media, it's about how much bashing they got on social media, and how I remember a lawmaker in Lagos got serious bashing because he went out there that this should not happen, this should happen. And he said, you should know better. You write your publicity, your popularity is basically on the platform of social media. So how do we get them to understand the intricate details of regulating social media as against being emotional with regulating the social media because of their political, the impact of that social media on their political existence?
Yes, from avoiding them from being emotional and even being defensive.
Exactly.
So I think that we need, on this matter, we need to let them know that we all are in this together. Like you mentioned, the particular politician or a politician from Lagos who was bashed, there was a particular member in the House who shared this information and was fined by his colleagues. They told him to leave and he was away for about 3-4 months, because of content that he shared on his Facebook page. So we need to let them know that we all are in this. Even you can be a peddler of this information if you allow your emotions, if you allow your ethnic bias, if you allow your religious bias come in the way. Even as a professor, you can fall for this information, you can share this information. But we need to let them know that our laws need to be very open. The fear that media practitioners have is that those in the political class can use this law against journalists, against the media. We've seen cases whereby they just go to someone's house and they pick them up.
It happened recently.
And then you're looking for this person for a week until then you now realize that yes, they were arrested and being investigated for a publication, cyber stalking, and is that how to do it? So if you're going to talk about regulations, there also has to be transparency. People need to trust. When people don't trust the system, they don't feel that the laws they are going to make will be in their favor. So when there's a lot of trust and transparency, we can now begin to work, maybe advocacy, sit with them and say, Mr. Legislator, we need to review this law. It's not because we want you, we are against you, but because we need to have a sane society where our conversations can be sensible. So we can begin to sell the idea to them, make them look as if the idea is even theirs. I even think, for instance, that in 2024, you shouldn't study journalism in school and not learn fact-checking. So that's the truth. You go to school, you study for 4 years, you are a pro in journalism, and you have no idea of the basic tools, reverse image search, that you can use to check, is this picture real, is it not real? Even the disinformation ecosystem itself, which is big, because people make a lot of money from that space. Let him talk, not don't let him go into the dark web and things like that.
So,
So-
web, another.
If you're in the media space, there's a level of education that's at the policy level. Those who are in the house are the ones that can say that, okay, we need to review our laws, our curriculum need to be, modified. People need to know these things. People need to know that it's not everything you see on social media that is real, that you can actually go to jail, like we said.
And a couple of times we share some information without even clicking on it.
And they say, shared as copy, receive, how do we say it?
Shared
Sent
as
as
copied.
received. You understand?
I don't know.
You see a very long text and they say, sent as received. That's not an excuse. You have the responsibility to read and then decide, should I share this or not? And I also think that one of the ways that we can get the tech guys to do the right thing is, most times when we see contents that are illegal or wrong, we can report them.
How do we do that?
You just go on there's this three dot you just go through the analytics. There's a place whereby you can report every post that is not right, that you think it shouldn't be on social media. What they now do at the back end is that when they receive a good number of people saying that this post is wrong, then they now take it down. What we can do at the policy level is to get them to say that there has to be a time frame so that when we report this, you can take it down right on time. Look at the NSAS period, for instance. I don't know who got that disinformation that when you're working with the flag, the police will not attack you and things like that. All sort of nonsense. And then, so the challenge is that we need to work with the legislatures. Let them see that the policymakers, we need to, as media practitioners, we need to work with them and let them know that our laws need to be reviewed. And it's not going to be a one-stop shop as such. Once tech is advancing, review again.
All right.
Okay, I'm told I can ask one more question before we go, and perhaps we can do that in a minute or so. And that is, who will take the gauntlet now? Who will lead this charge? I know that we, the media, this is our own part we're doing. Who takes the lead in ensuring that we have some kind of sanity in our social media space? Or before we start to talk even about regulation, who takes the? I know that there are some non-governmental organizations. However, we don't have enough of that to really push or help navigate this conversation.
And Larry, in addition to Joshua's question, how do we regulate in such a way that the people are not gagged from expressing their minds?
That's a difficult one, and it's a very tricky one as well. And that's why I spoke about trust. When people...
Because you know our politicians.
Yes, and also I gave the instance where...
Is he a politician?
I said you know our politicians. That was what I said.
You know the instance where a particular journalist was picked not too long ago and then save this person, save this, release person hashtag on Twitter. So if we have less of that, and then when people are trying to, when the police is trying to investigate a particular matter and they do it in a very transparent way, then there's trust. So I know that if you attack me or malign my reputation online, what happened to this lady that Eniola Badmus dealt with in the legal way can happen to you. That's a very transparent way. But if you're going to pick me up at home, you can't find me, you pick my mom, my sister, my wife, that's not right. I think the police got into that particular case of Tony Abraham and it became a lot more milky. But I think that, but I think that what can be done is to ensure that transparency is there. To answer your question in the aspect of who should lead, for the fear of saying everyone, I also say yes, the media. We have the opportunity to, this conversation is going to help a lot of people, and I think we should have more of this. In terms of explainers, explaining the nitty-gritty of those laws, because we have too many laws. We have the laws and then we just leave it there. Explainers has to be made. People need to be able to understand. And then after that, as individuals, we cannot call Facebook to the table. We cannot. We can call Twitter. The only time we got the attention of Twitter in Nigeria was when they deleted the post of the former president. And before then, fact checkers have been trying to get their attention to say that there's this group on social media who use social media a lot to propagate their agenda using misinformation. And they didn't really care. They didn't respond. But at the time where it became something that affected presidency, then we got their attention. So I think that we should call them to the table early enough. I like the way the US government is always calling them, say, explain this new tech you just have. How is it going to affect the people? Until then, we will be playing catch up.
Thank you very much, Lanre Olagunju, for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Hopefully, we can have you back here to expound the conversation as to how to make sure social media is sensible, or we have a very sensible social media in Nigeria. Not necessarily about regulation now, but as all of us will get the message. Okay, that's about it for regulating the social media debate. We'll take a short break. When we come back, Conversation Lagos is standing by. Don't go anywhere.
Okay now than before, because before there is pothole and water. Motor find it difficult to pass, but now everything is okay.
3 years ago,